Jason, I didn't pay the parking meter and I got a ticket. Your fault.
I did not pay the parking. I don't have an answer for that. I wasn't prepared for it. I'm sorry.
My pen is blue, but I wanted black. Your fault.
That suit is supposed to be gray, but it looks more white. That is your fault.
It is my fault.
It's your fault.
So what are we doing here? We're just blaming.
I think you should substitute that suit.
I don't have it. I've only got 3 suits. I wanted 4 suits.
You wanted 4 suits.
That's the reason why I lost to Crystal Palace. Of course, we're doing typical everyday interactions with Jose Mourinho to the point that you never, ever take the blame for anything, especially when your side is way below par and losing.
Could you imagine? You're in a group of friends, and there's always like a few people who are like, "What do you want to go? Like, what do you want to eat tonight? Like, where should we get food?" And there always is somebody who's just like, "I don't care."
I think. Have you heard Justin Bieber's new song? What do you mean? It's a question mark. It's apparently about his relationship with the girl. I think it could easily be his relationship with Jose Mourinho. She says she wants to go left, but then she turns right. She nods her head no, but then she says yes.
How many of these lyrics do you know?
A lot. It was last night in the VMAs, of course. What do you mean, bruh? How many times are we going to quote Kanye, bruh? It's the second clip in a row, and I will consistently do it. I don't care. Jose Mourinho, again, suffered another defeat, and a very good article, which I'm going to pull up on my phone right now very professionally, talks about many of the reasons. It's the Mail Online, actually, not the Guardian. And I like this. This is actually 4 things that have went wrong in Paradise. And it's talking about Chelsea right now. And what is the problem right there? And the first one goes in, I would say, in cohesion with it being the number 4. Their back 4 is all over the effing place. Specifically Branislav Ivanovic, who I always thought that Branislav Ivanovic was a little bit vulnerable one-on-one. Who needs to go back to the game against Tottenham last season? I understand he was in Team of the Year. He's a good defender. He's a good defender when someone takes him on his strong suit, on his strong side of his right-hand side. Natural defending one-on-one. This is the left wing. I'm playing against you right now. I show you onto my right foot. It's my strong foot. I'm going to be able to take you down the line and block crosses. It happened time and time again with players that went for the line. When he faced against someone who cut inside, Harry Kane, specifically in that game against Tottenham, they won 5-3, I think. He takes him inside, he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't adjust well enough, he's not got the speed. And I think that's not every example. Trust me, I know people are going to be out there watching him and like, I know he won that fight, he won him. They took him inside and he won it. Maxwell is wrong. But I'm not wrong. I'm right.
Observationally, he looks lost.
Yeah,
he looks lost anytime. It's the same as, I guess, a one-footed player, maybe for that example of being. It's like if you take a guy who's right-footed and has never used his left foot in his entire life, not in any specific actual soccer example, football example, I should say. But when you do it, they look. It's like you're looking in a mirror trying to defend.
Yes.
So every time you go right, you go left.
Like a Justin Bieber song.
Like the Justin Bieber. That's not my fault that I accidentally quoted Justin Bieber. Okay.
Oh, amazing. So the second point. So they talked about the faltering back 4, and this kind of goes along with the next point, which I'm going to talk about, is Mourinho's rouse and bizarre substitution. So straight from the get-go, when you place the blame on, when you place the blame on a doctor to start with, which for having a player going down, that's not there to be placed. That's protocol. She needs to go on the field to play. They need to take the player off. That's the rules. It's not the doctor's fault. But Mourinho, being the deflector that he is, would deflect onto her. Then he uses John Terry as a scapegoat as well. And then he says that the result in which they were easily beaten by Manchester City was not a fair representation of the way they've been playing. And then they lose against Crystal Palace. And what happens? Let's take a look.
11 players at the same time performing, to be fair. 2 or 3 of them, the individual performance was far from good. And, I blame myself for not to change one of them, because I kept him in the game for 90 minutes. And when I made the 3rd change, I realized that I needed the 4th.
I'm really happy he knows that he only has 3. Could you imagine if he had no idea? I always thought this whole time there was 4.
It's funny because it shows signs there. I think it's the first time. I think the whole world stopped when he said it's my fault. But he takes it on himself and then he pushes it out. So it is his fault, but then he should have had 4 substitutions. Look at your team on paper compared to Crystal Palace. There's no way you should be losing that game. And these results do happen, but take it into account. Be like, okay, we just didn't play well. We're not as in form as we are from last year. And I know what his job is as a manager, and when they're winning, it works well. He deflects it away from the players, which is a good managerial stance. But when you're losing and you're blaming other people and you're blaming substitutions, you're blaming rules, that's just not the way. It's not going to build any sort of team chemistry. It's not going to build any accountability more than anything, because when you get Diego Costa out there still throwing random headbutts, it's because he doesn't take accountability for his actions, and he doesn't think that he's doing anything that will jeopardise his team's performance.
The question now becomes, at what point are they going to dig themselves so deep that they can't get back out, or is this still, and after week 1, it was, Chelsea doesn't look like Chelsea. Yeah. Let's all jump to conclusions that they are not going to win the Premier League. And then after week 2, okay, a 2-game sample, a 2-match sample, they don't look, and now you're into week 3. Yeah. And it's not a fair comparison to make, but at least in the NFL schedule, not my American football, my football, once you really get to week 5, if the team is 0-5 or 1-4 and they do not look competent enough to pull together, granted the NFL season is a lot shorter, about half the length of a world football season. Yeah. You can start tying the loose ends and figuring out, okay, this team is simply not going to make a run at least winning the most important games of the year and getting into contention. For Chelsea, is it next week where we really start questioning the fact if they don't come out with 3 points? Because now it's getting to the point where they need to start grabbing all the points they can get. Yep. After losing, and the stat I have is the second time in Mourinho's last 100 games as head of Chelsea. Losing at home. The second game at home. Last time it was against Sunderland, if I'm correct. Yeah. 1-2 in 2014. Yeah, it's remarkable how many times he's won consistently at home, and he has a remarkable manager, but there's other factors that come into play here. So one of the things that basically has been stated in this article is that it's not just a defensive problem. Fabregas and Matic are not clicking together. And Hazard has been... It seems as if he's just kind of faltered away, which was worrying. And it is early doors, trust me. But then one of the main points, which they say is third, so we've already touched on their defence not clicking the way it did last season, vulnerable, Ivanovic, touched on Mourinho deflecting, and now they're saying that the failure to get their targets, which is surprising because Chelsea last season, it seemed like the players they wanted, Diego Costa, Cesc Fabregas, they were assured, they were the golden example of how to work in a transfer window. They didn't overspend, they didn't go crazy and try and buy as many players as they could, like people would say Manchester United did, but they went in and they got efficient targets that they needed. This season, I didn't think they had to add as much, but they still needed a couple of things in there. Right. I still think that they needed a right back. I still think that they could have added a more, I would say, a better fitting striker to help complement Diego Costa, but they went in and got Falcao. And it could be Mourinho being frustrated, and it could be Roman Abramovich thinking they don't need to add anyone. But there's targets out there that they've went in to get and they haven't got. Like Paul Pogba, I think, will still go to Barcelona. I think that he views that as a better fit. John Stones is a good defender, but they seem to be kind of not good. They don't think they can sway him this season. I think Everton are holding on to him. Right. This might change, by the way, because everything happens in the last 30 minutes in transfer windows. But I think the most important point you mentioned is Falcao is now 1 goal closer to leading the Premier League in goal scoring, and my $5 bet on that happening. It looks a little bit better today. That's hilarious. I said that on when we... He scored! Yeah, I was like... With his head, which is what he dominated with years ago. Yes, it's not years ago. You're talking like 2010. Oh, okay, it was years ago. I thought it was like 2012, but yes. But 2010, 2011, he still was always good with his head, but I did say that. I was like, if you get the miracle that Falcao gets back to scoring ways and you still can't win, then there's a problem. There's a problem right there. So, and then the final one, which I don't agree with, I think this is just one to I think the guy who wrote this wants to just get another dig at Jose Mourinho, is former players doing the business elsewhere. Well, that shouldn't affect the way you perform in your league season. Yes, there is players out there who are doing better than what they have done with him. I think one of the best ones is Oriol Romeo, who's playing for Southampton, who's doing very well defensive midfielder. But how will that affect them? Because you think Matic is suddenly pissed off that Romeo is doing a good job as a defensive midfielder. Matic was the best defensive midfielder, or one of the best in the world last year. I think they're just getting complacent. That's easily the word to sum it up. And disagree with me if you may, complacency is the reason why Chelsea are not performing, and that, for me, is it. A lot of people like watching Chelsea lose. I like watching Chelsea play. I also like watching Swansea City win. But I found that there's a poll that the team that people like, the team that people most want to see lose is Chelsea Rangers. In the Premier League. In the Premier League is Rangers. They're not in the Scottish Premier League, technically, yes. Okay, the English Premier League is Rangers.
Yeah, so, and I forgot to mention on the last clip, just going to throw it in, completely off topic, but Blackett, the player who was playing for Manchester United last season, starting many games on loan to Celtic from Manchester United. Big win for the Hoops. Big win. But yes, to get back to the context of this clip, what do you guys think about Chelsea? Is it panic stations at Stamford Bridge? Potentially. Me and Jason will be back to talk more football and to do our own version of Louis van Gaal and Jose Mourinho out to lunch, which would be a very fun clip in which no one would pay the bill, in which the waiter would get everything wrong. I don't think that I ordered coffee. I ordered coffee.
How do you not exit that clip with, is Stamford Bridge a bridge over troubled waters? You had such an option. Such an option there.
Right, you can end it. Please say it again.
No, that's what.
No, I want you to end it and sell it.
Okay.
Straight
so we
face.
hit the 50 into it.
So, do we think that Stamford Bridge is a worrying place to be at the moment?
I mean, Francis, I believe Stamford Bridge might just be a bridge over troubled waters.
I quit.